Hi, welcome to my kitchen. I'm just finishing a NOSHER's buffet. If you don't know what a NOSHER is, I'm really sorry because you haven't spent enough time with Jews. Jews came into this country with the very, very first immigrants. You know, they came with the rest of Europe. And those from Eastern Europe who speak Yiddish brought with them a tradition that we generally associate with the American Jewish delicatessen. And one of the words they use is the word nosher. And a nosher is one who eats all the time, all the time, all the time. He nibble, nibble, nibble. He eats through the world, you see. And I love it because I'm a nosher. And I certainly love Jewish cooking. I know a place here in Chicago where we can find Jewish food that's very, very close to the kind of thing I've loved in New York for years and years. It's called Samuel's. It's on the corner of Broadway. And it's a marvelous place. But you have to remember when you get in there, it's going to be pretty hectic and pretty busy because during the lunch hour, everybody lines up and orders marvelous sandwiches. He makes sandwiches out of corned beef, pastrami, anything you can name, wraps them up, and then you grab them and run. Or the smoked fish, puddings, and look at the pickles. I love good pickles. This poor guy can't stand it any longer. For heaven's sakes, feed him. He's all right now. Salamis, these are beef, and always, this is corned beef now, always corned beef and good beef products so that there's no pork fat about. That's important. And smoked lox, and the deli case. He can make an enormous selection of trays for you so that when you throw a party, it'll really be lovely. Covered with turkey, not the party, the tray, covered with turkey or salami. You can have a marvelous time. And of course, the breads are important too. Bagels, a classic. It's really a boiled dumpling is what it is. Goes great with smoked fish. Goes great with any kind of meat. Look at the selection that he puts out for you. I just love places like this. And it really is a haven for noshers. Once you get going in a spot like that, read a menu like this, and it's absolute frustration. But I love that kind of frustration, and there's no reason to give up on it. So what we're going to do now is to consider our own nosher's buffet. I brought back with me from Samuel's a couple of sandwiches. I want you to see these. This is the same one that he was wrapping up for us. Look at the size of this rascal. Look at the meat that's in here. Let me get it out of the paper. There. That's the corned beef. And I have a pastrami sandwich that's equally as heavy with meat. You see, just beautifully made. Look at the pastrami. Gorgeous. And then I have another sandwich. This one is a triple meat sandwich. This one is made of tongue and salami and corned beef. And if you, yes, you did notice there's only half of it there. You know why? I couldn't help myself. On the way home, I lost control and dove into it right in the car. Marvelous food. The other things that we should have on our buffet, of course, would be lots of pickles, salami, bagels, matzahs, and lox, beautiful lox. This is a dry smoked salmon. It's not a hot smoke, but a cold smoke, so it's almost raw. And then finally, here's a recipe that I just won't have time to show you today, but I do want you to see what it is. This is gefilte fish. This is from Mrs. Kleiner in Tacoma. She taught me to do this dish. And it's always served with red horseradish. It's a great dish for Passover and for special festivals. It's a boiled, kind of a boiled fish ball, and it's just delicious. Just absolutely wonderful. Let me put this on our tray here of goodies. Now let's get started on what we're going to add to the tray. The first one is the glorious matzah ball. Now I admit that if you don't make these carefully, they're going to turn out like lead balls, but I want you to make matzah balls. They're very light and lovely. Into a bowl then I want to crack 2 eggs. Okay. And we add to that, if I can find a fork for whipping here, we add to that some schmaltz. Now, you can't make good matzo balls without schmaltz, and schmaltz consists of chicken fat that you've rendered from the chicken that you buy in the market. In the cavity of the chicken, you'll find great chunks of fat at the southern end of the chicken. You know where that is. And to take the fat out, it will look like this. You see, little pieces of fat, and you place that in the frying pan with no oil at all, and just very gently cook it, very, very carefully, until it becomes almost crunchy and brown, and the fat is golden yellow. Don't burn it. You mustn't let this smoker burn. Now I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of this in my eggs. 2 tablespoons of chicken fat into 2 eggs. Yes, you can do this with vegetable oil. Of course you can. But I promise you, it's really not going to taste as good. On the other hand, you have to admit that chicken fat is terrible for you. But, you know, a nice meatball now, a nice matzo ball now and then. Pinch of salt, and I need a couple of tablespoons of chicken soup. Now, let me talk about chicken soup for a minute. That's, you know, Jews claim that you can heal the whole world with chicken soup. Putting 2 tablespoons of chicken soup into my mixture now, and we'll put that back to work here, because it's almost time for the matzah meal. All right, now, let's talk about the soup. In my kettle, I have cooked, I'm going to shut that down, I have cooked a whole batch of chicken backs and necks, or you can use whole chickens if you like, about 3 pounds, 2 quarts of water, a few carrots, some yellow onion, a whole yellow onion, about 4 stalks of celery, peppercorns, half a dozen or so, and a bit of salt. And let that cook for about 2 hours. You see all the fat? Look at that. See all the fat that's on the top? You've got to get rid of that. You know how I do it? Let me show you. First of all, I take all the bones and vegetables out of the stock, you see, and then run the stock through a fine mesh strainer so that you catch all of the little particles of chicken meat and vegetables in the strainer. Then you have a pot full of plain stock, right? What we want then is a tube, and don't tell me you don't remember this from your junior high days, because I know you do. You siphon the soup stock from the bottom of the kettle with a siphoning tube, which is lower than the pot, you see, which means you're going to wind up with very clear, nice soup, and the fat will be at the top of the pot. The other method, of course, is to put it in the refrigerator overnight and let the fat congeal, and you can take it off the next day. But I'm convinced chicken soup doesn't taste half as good the second day as it does the first when it's made fresh. So use the old plastic tube method. You can buy those in any hardware store. Okay, back to the matzo balls. I have 2 eggs in a bowl, 2 tablespoons of chicken fat, 2 tablespoons of soup stock, and exactly 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now I want to put some matzah meal into that, and we need 1/2 cup. What is matzah meal? Well, let me show you the cracker here. Lean over everything. This is the big matzah. And this is a classic part of Jewish cuisine, of Hebrew thinking as well as cuisine, you see. And what I want to do is to take a 1/2 cup of meal made by the matzah. You can buy this in any good supermarket. And you'll stir that into the mixture of egg, chicken fat, soup stock, and salt. Now you're going to say, how's he going to mix a matzo ball out of that? Look how wet that is. Well, that has to go in the refrigerator for about half an hour. And at the end of half an hour, I'll show you what you get. At the end of half an hour, it's going to be much firmer, and it'll be easy to handle. You see? You see? And nothing flat. It's very nice and firm, you see? So now we can mold some matzo balls. We need some wax paper. My counter here so that we don't make a mess out of the whole business. And we need to moisten our hands. Keep your hands wet so that this doesn't stick. And you take about a tablespoon, I'm sorry. You want to get 9 or 10 of these out of the bowl here. Now I'm not going to have time to roll all of these for you. You get the idea, huh? You should get about 9 or 10 of these. You see them? Now, they go into a pot of simmering, heavy simmer, I suppose, water. You don't want to boil them to death or they'll fall apart. So be very careful. Let's check the pot here. Boiling water, good. That's just about right. You see, it's not doing much. And we'll throw them in. I would assume we would have 9 or 10 of these. Put the lid on, and in 30 to 40 minutes, you have matzo balls. Did you see how little those rascals were? When they cook, they become much larger. And here are my matzo balls all ready to go now. And I'm going to put them into the chicken soup. Cook them for about 5 minutes, just so they warm up, you see. Take them out of the water. You understand what I've done? Out of the water, heat them up again in the chicken soup from which you've drained the fat. And then you serve them like this. Oh, I don't even want to do any more today. I want to sit down right now. I doubt that you can eat 5 matzo balls at one sitting. Although, listen, a good nosher, any respectable nosher can eat 5 matzo balls anytime. I've done it many times. We need some parsley on the top of that. And we There. And we have a marvelous dish. The rabbi in our city in Tacoma, Rabbi Rosenthal, tells me that my matzo balls are very respectable. And he should know. He's a nosher too, and a very good scholar. That's the best of the rabbinic tradition, isn't it? You know, Jews don't sit around and talk about history and theology. They eat it. Every food that comes to the table, particularly during Seder time, has some marvelous significance. And it's great fun to consider the meal as you consider your past. It's very important. Bowl of matzo ball soup. Are you ready for that one? I love it. All right, the second one that I want to make for you today is really kind of a disastrous thing if you're on a diet, but it's a classic cheesecake. Now, I have eaten frozen cheesecakes. So have you. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. It is not what I'm thinking of as a cheesecake at all. So this one is a good dish, and I think you're going to have fun with it. It's easy to make, but it is fattening, because there's nothing but butter and sour cream in it. 1 cup of graham cracker crumbs. Add to that 1/4 cup of melted butter and 1/4 cup of sugar. Stir that up, and you have a basic crust for the bottom of our pan. We're going to use a 9-inch ring form. You know what that is? Well, you'll find them in any hardware store or a cooking supply house. Now, once you stir this up with a fork, you see if it's still lumpy like this, then you have to work it with your fingers a bit. That's nice. Now I'll get my 9-inch ring form, or spring form, not ring form. Spring form pan is what you want. You know the gadget has a little spring on the side and it'll pop open for you when the cheesecake is done. Put the graham crackers with 1/4 cup of butter and 1/4 cup of sugar in the bottom of the pan and just pack it down all the way around the edges. And we're ready now for our filling for a classic New York cheesecake. There is no gelatin in a New York cheesecake. Please. Please. There we go. All good Jews know that you don't put gelatin in cheesecake. Those are goy. Those are for goy. That's a Yiddish term for one who's simply not Jewish. And that covers everybody else but the Jews, you see. Gelatin and cheesecake is goy. So let's put for our filling now, we want 2 eggs. I'm going to put it into a food blender here. You can use a food processor, of course, if you like. 2 eggs, 1.5 cups of sour cream. This is very rich, but it's very, very good. Oh, where'd the rest of my spoons go here? We'll just use a wooden one. 1.5 cups. This is a pint of sour cream, so that means it's 2 cups, and I'll just take out everything but half a cup. Sort of. All right, there we are. And now we're going to add to that a bit of vanilla. And that's about 2 teaspoons of good vanilla. Don't buy phony stuff now. 1, 2. If you're nervous about that kind of measuring, why? Be nervous. But with a little practice, you can do it too. Now we're going to austerize that for a bit, or blend it, depending on what you have here, until it really turns into a... There we go. Blend it for about a minute, will you? Okay, at the end of the minute, we're going to put in an entire pound of cream cheese. That is to say, 2 of these half-pound pieces, right? We'll just put it in by the chunk here. We'll put in a little piece at a time. Oh, I hope you get this recipe. This will just make your dinner party. Alrighty. While that's mixing, let me clean my hands off here. There's a bubble in it. Now it's going to go. There, we got it. Okay, at the end of about 2 minutes, when this is nice and smooth, we want to add some butter. About 2 tablespoons. How's it doing? You got one more bubble in there? There it was. All right, now we'll get it. Now we're done. Isn't that an awful racket? We now have New York cheesecake. not what you call complicated. Did you get the recipe? For the filling, we've used 1½ cups of sour cream, 2 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, a full pound of cream cheese, and then at the last we added exactly 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Okay, I'm not going to take time to clean all of this out. The Frugal Gourmet certainly should scrape it out with a rubber scraper, but I'm not going to. All right, you put that in a 325-degree oven for about 45 minutes. And you'll come up with a lovely, lovely cake. It looks awfully wet now, but it won't. It'll be firm and nice. But you have to remember then to immediately turn off your oven and then turn on the broiler and broil the top. That's how you get the lovely color on. It isn't something phony with sugar or anything like that. And the result will be one of these. If you broil the top, you see, you'll get a lovely, what do you call that? Burned sugar and butter fat cover, you see. It looks like lacework. I'm going to put this aside and I'll show you how to do a quickie, because I have another cheesecake here that I prepared for you that's still in the pan. Now, if you don't broil them right away and leave it sit overnight, it's going to crack. But that's all right, because you can still broil it and it'll still look good. I want to do one for you in a hurry here with an old French trick, I know. It's the wrong burner here. There we go. Yes, I'm using an acetylene torch. Are you ready? And just take on the old top there. See it browning right away? That's all right. This is done often in restaurants. Nothing crazy about it. And it gives you an interesting kind of speckled effect for a New York cheesecake. Now, in the old days in New York City, Lindy's, which was a major institution in Manhattan, used to serve a cheesecake with strawberry topping. And it was absolutely wonderful. In the middle of January, Lindy would have strawberry topping on these cheesecakes. It was a great place to eat. Well, you get the idea. Enough of that one. Got it? It's a lovely, lovely dish, and it's so rich that it'll just make it. One of these will serve at least 8 people. At least 8 people, because it is rich. Cut it into small slices, or you'll simply kill yourself trying to enjoy. Enjoy, you see? Now, let's go on to another one. This next dish is a carrot ring. And while it looks very, very rich, you have to understand that the Jewish household has sweet things on the table. At the same time, they have sour things on the table, because Jews understand that life is really sweet and sour. It's bittersweet. It's like Charlie Brown when he talks about good grief. Or it's like the term the Frugal Gourmet. 2 opposing things come together and helps you understand another possibility for reality. You understand that? Heavy theology today. But it's true. And they'll always have sweet things and bitter things on the table. And this is a sweet carrot ring that's a delight for a dinner party. And it's very, very delicious. I'm going to put 2 cups of shortening into, use vegetable shortening, of course. Don't use animal shortening. 2 cups of shortening into a good mixing bowl. And to that I'm going to add 1 cup of brown sugar. Move a matzah here and find out where everything is. Here we go. 1 cup of brown sugar. 2 eggs that I've already beaten. There we go. 2 eggs and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice, of course. 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. Now we're going to cream all of that. Hardly a technical term, but what it means is you're going to beat it to death until everything blends, and it'll just take a second, and then we can prepare the carrots. Mrs. Baskin, Pearl Baskin in Tacoma, makes this dish for dinner parties. Oh, is it rich. She fed me this the first time when I was just a kid in college. I was literally adopted by a Jewish household, and they changed my life. They taught me so many things about the nature of the table and the history of biblical traditions and food. Oh, I've never been the same. Never been the same. Okay, there we go. We have in the bowl now 2 cups of shortening, 1 cup of brown sugar, 2 whipped eggs, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, fresh lemon juice. You see, we mix that all up nicely. And now we're going to add to that 6 cups of grated carrots. Now, in the old days, your grandma, if you had a Jewish grandma, you see, she would stand around and work on a carrot and one of these box scrapers, and it takes a long time to do this. I did this in the food processor or with an electric food machine. Works great so that you'll always use fresh vegetables and this sort of thing. Now, the 6 cups go right into our into our mixture here of shortening and sugar and eggs. Okay, there we are. Be gentle now when you start this machine, because it's going to throw the stuff all over if you're not. All right, last bit of ingredients. Now we have to add some flour. And I'm going to add 2½ cups of flour, along with a teaspoon of salt. Here's the 2½ cups of flour all measured out. Teaspoon of salt and 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Otherwise, this thing's going to be just as heavy as a bomb. There we go. We'll mix all of that up and then add that to our carrot mixture, which looks like it's trying to climb right out of the bowl. Well, no matter. We'll get it down there. There we go. And in goes our flour. There we are. Now, in the meantime, while this is mixing, you want to grease a 3 or 4 quart ring mold. And I've greased it with, again, with the same kind of shortening. And you have to put in quite a bit, or you'll never get this rascal out of the mold. And here's the clincher. When Mrs. Baskin told me this, I just cracked up. She puts Wheaties. Put about half a cup or a cup of Wheaties in the bottom of the rack, of the pan rather, and it gives you a very crunchy, very unusual topping. This is served as a vegetable course at a formal NOSHER's buffet. Okay, here we go. Isn't this wild? But wait till you see the finished product. It's really very delicious. All right. I'd rather talk with you today about some more of these traditions rather than stuff this in the pan, but we'll get it started and you can see how it goes. You understand, of course, what I've done here. Put in the carrots, and then finally the 2½ cups of flour, along with 2 teaspoons of baking powder and a teaspoon of salt. Okay. Yes, there is too much shortening in this whole meal. You know, there's chicken fat all over the place, and there's really too much fat. And in our time, people who come from this tradition, who eat this way, you know, among the Jews, even they admit that they've got to knock off. But now and then, in order to remember who you are, you have to eat these old dishes and remember all about your childhood. And I have a friend who came from a ghetto in Brooklyn in the old days when there really was a Jewish ghetto, and it was hard to get out of there. And when she eats some of these dishes, why, we sit there with tears in our eyes and tell each other stories and wonderful things. All right, this goes into a 350-degree oven for about an hour, but you have to put it in a pan of water. So what I would do, you see, was to put my cake mold into a pan and then add to that enough water to come up to about 1/3 of the side of the pan here. There we are. That should about do it, I think. Oh, I need a little more. I'm not going to run for water now. We'll just put it in the oven. We can't even get it in that oven. We've got to put it down, so we'll put it in later. Don't think I'm going to let this sit around. The crew here will be interested in that one. And our result, after you bake this for 1 hour at 350, you come up with a carrot ring. That needs something in the center, doesn't it? Let's try some parsley. Parsley is important in the Seder meal. It's used as one of the sweet herbs, which helps us remember all of the sweet things that happened when we were fleeing Egypt in the old days. So parsley is a symbolic vegetable as well as a very great flavoring. Where do I put it? Well, I don't know where I put it. There. The NOSHER buffet is ready, as far as I'm concerned. These are some of my favorite dishes. This isn't really a buffet, you understand. Isn't that carrot ring gorgeous? When you cut that, you'll find a very rich, see how rich this is? Oh, it's very, very heavy and lovely. I want to get a chunk out here so you can look at it. There we are. I'll just set it up on an angle for you. There. It's almost like a carrot pudding. Finally, the last thing that you need for a good event with a NOSHER is a glass of wine. I want to tell you why. It isn't a normal reason. That is to say, most people drink wine because it's nice to drink. But that's not why Jews drink wine. In the Bible, wine is listed as sure and final proof of the fact that God loves us and wants us to be happy. You'll find that tradition in the Psalms. 104th Psalm, remember, wine to gladden our heart, bread to give us strength, and oil to make our face shine. It's a beautiful image. And when temple services begin on Friday night, when Sabbath comes, the service begins with a glass of wine. Why? Well, because in Hebrew, you don't have generalizing terms. You don't have universals like we have in Greek or in Latin or English. So you talk about concrete images. And one of the most concrete images of the wisdom of God and his cleverness, her cleverness, my wife is watching, her cleverness is the glory of the grape. So the service opens up with this toast. Blessed art thou, O Lord God, King of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine. And then the toast is made. It's good. And then the service can begin. Jews always understand that they're terribly dependent upon the goodness of the Creator, who taught us to make matzah balls and make matzahs when we were running on the desert, when we couldn't carry our yeast, when we were fleeing from the Egyptians, you see. And finally, through all of these marvelous traditions, we wind up with the life of the nosher. And when he eats, he thinks about food, which makes him think about God, which makes him think about his family, which makes him go back to the table, and it all goes round and round, and we have a grand time together. I want you to do that. Make matzah ball soup, make a carrot pudding, make a cheesecake, lovely cheesecake, and celebrate this bit of American history that comes to us from the Jews of Eastern Europe. The Southern Jews, Sephardic, that's another show, that's another time. Marvelous food. Anyhow, I'm going to eat. So until I see you again, this is the Frugal Gourmet. L'chaim. I bid you peace. Bye-bye.